Bankability is a big term, and I think it means different things for different people. And what we're really trying to do is how do we make sure that everyone uses the same language and the same concept of what we mean by bankability. But really what we mean by bankability, it's a project that is able to be self-sustaining, be able to pay back whatever debt and bring a return to the developers or owners of the project. So that's essentially what we mean. And there's a lot of things that make a project bankable. Things like contracts with off-takers, things like your EPC contract that you would sign, things like your supply agreements, as well as your loan agreements as well. So it's a lot of elements that actually make a project bankable. And we support all the different DFIs with each one of those elements to ensure that when they work through them, understanding what the financiers need, because they essentially define what bankability is. So we assist them in ensuring that they understand what the banks would want, so that those projects can actually reach that bankable stage. I think when you look at risks, there's two parts to it. There's the de-risking of projects to make them bankable, which is part of the work that we do in the project preparation and project development space. And that covers a few things. One is, how do we look at technology risk? How do we look at financing risk? How do we look at operational risk? How do we look at environmental risks, etc.? So those risks normally have to be reviewed and considered upfront before a project is deemed bankable. So we work with the entities to actually look at how to mitigate those risks. What we then also do is that to support from a funding perspective then is that we would work with entities such as 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗳𝗍 from the World Bank, who then offer risk instruments to help in credit enhancement on the loans that actually provided. And that's essentially how we then manage the risk from those perspective. There's a project preparation and project risk itself, and then there's the credit enhancement instruments that you would then use, that you would work together with the likes of your 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗳𝗍 and a few others who actually do that. And these are instruments that are actually readily available that a lot of people can have access to. And I think it's really important that our DFIs actually start using those to assist in ensuring that the projects that they work on can actually be more bankable. It's essentially looking at the small scale power projects. So if you really think about it, if you own a house and you're in the rural areas and you want to put up solar panels on your house, that's not something that would be funded necessarily by a large institution, etc. So very few opportunities, or rather innovative structures, have been put in place, which are microfinance structures to assist individuals to be able to fund the projects, or rather to fund their installations at their own houses. So there's a very good example that has actually worked very well in Malawi, where there's a company called 𝗕𝗲𝗄 that goes around assisting the locals in putting up solar panels on their roof, just for lighting as well as for cooking. And they essentially use a microfinancing structure to assist those individuals to actually be able to afford that. And then they use a very innovative way of pricing it, so that they price on how much energy is being used to be able then to pay back the cost of the installation as well. So these are some instruments which actually haven't been considered a lot, because people always consider the very large projects, and this is very overlooked. And I know that today there's a session that's going to discuss that specifically in terms of how to support small scale projects through microfinancing solutions.